Oh, what a mess.
This is Neil Schneider from Meant to Be Seen. Welcome back to my messy basement. I apologize for missing an episode last week. I did the unthinkable. I took a vacation. Okay, all right, so I admitted it. All right, now we're done. Okay, so now we can move conscious clear. So, some quick highlights before we start the program. First, Immersed 2016, taking place October 16th to 18th at the Ontario Science Centre, Toronto, Canada. You can learn more at getimmersed.com. We've already started to announce our speaker list. Of course, there's many more on the way. I just want to proudly highlight two of the many qualified speakers that you're going to see at Immersed this year. First up, Terrence Mason. He's the CEO and founder of Building Conversation. Building Conversation is one of the world's top augmented reality content developers. But, you know, what also makes Terrence extremely cool is if you're a fan of the show South Park, which of course I am, Terrence was the person who developed the animation software that show is based on. So, you know, really amazing stuff. And literally what happened was I asked Terrence to respect my authority and come down to Toronto, and of course he will. So it's a big honor that he's coming down to Immersed 2016. Also joining Terrence is Kim Davidson. Kim is the CEO of Side Effects. Side Effects are one of the top visual effects and 3D animation software companies in the world. They have the Houdini platform. You're just going to have to visit their website. They've got a whole demo reel. You'll be impressed. But another credit to their name is they actually won Technical Achievement and Scientific and Engineering Award, a Technical Achievement in Scientific and Engineering Award from the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences. So this is a big deal that they're going to be presenting at Immersed 2016. And of course, we're very proud that Side Effects is a Toronto company. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that happens on the East Coast on a regular basis, and you are, of course, going to see that at Immersed 2016. Now, one more thing. The Immersed, even though it's a professional event, okay, we are going to have a consumer-facing event as well. We are partnered with the Ontario Science Centre. The Science Centre gets anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 visitors per day. We want this to be ambitious. We want people excited about virtual reality and immersive technology. And we're actually being encouraged to increase that public exhibition and education series to 3 days instead of the original 2. So we might be looking at anywhere from 9,000 to 15,000 people getting excited about immersive technology. So if you're interested in being part of that, and I really hope you are, because this has global ramifications well above the Ontario Science Centre, reach out. We want you involved. So email info@getimmersed.com. Now, back to our scheduled program. So we've got 2 interviews today, and next week I'm thinking I'll do an extra episode as well to make up for lost time. So today's 2 interviews. First up, we're going to have Brent Jensch. He's Director of Developer Relations for a company called Idealens. Now, we've had Idealens on the program before, but they've really upgraded their stuff since we spoke to them last. They are a mobile head-mounted display maker. Really exciting stuff. We're going to hear from Brent shortly. Following Brent, we've got a joint interview with Angel Patney. He's Senior Research Scientist at Nvidia, as well as Tom Sengelub, who's Manager Solutions Delivery for SMI. They're being interviewed together. What are they talking about? They're talking about foveated rendering. Now, foveated rendering, the technology or the discussion of foveated rendering has been around for some time, but they actually demonstrated some practical demonstrations of foveated rendering at SIGGRAPH 2016. They talk about their work, the ramifications, and so on. Really interesting stuff. So we'll be back with more right after this. To my immediate right is Brent Jensch. He is Director of Developer Relations for Idealens. Welcome back to the program, Brent.
Hey, thanks for having me, Neil. It's good seeing you again.
Yes, the last time we met, I think, was at GDC this year, yes?
Right.
Excellent. Now, this doesn't look at all like what I saw at GDC, so I take it you've had some enhancements since then. So for those that hadn't seen the program, can you tell us about your product?
Yeah, so this is an all-in-one VR headset, meaning that everything, the computer is built into the headset itself. It doesn't connect to a computer via wire, and you don't put a phone in. It's a mobile VR headset based off an Android OS system.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Android system that's driving it?
Well, so it's Android 6, And we have Unity SDKs for it. So anyone who's already developing for an Android-based VR, so like Gear or Cardboard, they're already developing for this. As a matter of fact, to port it across is a 2 to 3 hour process.
Now, what makes this unique? And what I mean by that is, I mean, are there features about this that really make it a standout product?
Well, one of the things is our comfort. We put the battery in the back here to offset the balance of the weight. So it's very, very comfortable, 295 grams in the front itself. Then you can wear it with glasses, which is kind of a sticking point for some of the rest of them. We have a 120-degree field of view with our big lenses here, and we got our latency down to 17 milliseconds, running at 90 hertz. Because this is a standalone VR system, everything about this computer is optimized specifically for VR. So you get a very comfortable and a very immersive experience from it.
Now, I have to mention the P word. You know what the P word is, don't you?
Positional tracking, right?
And does it?
It will, yes. We're finalizing our outside-in position tracking setup. It's in its final stages right now, but we will have a mobile outside-in position tracking system with motion controllers.
And you're expecting like bang-on positional, like little to no latency, like super duper.
We're trying to get the latency down to the minimal that it can in a mobile setup, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about content. I know this is brand new, so what can you tell us about early offerings?
So this is our dev kit, right? And we actually have our developer registration going on right now. And so anyone looking to sign up for a developer kit can actually just go to @Idealens on Twitter, and I'm tweeting the link to it all week. And I'll continue to tweet it because it's a temporary link right now. And so we're looking for content. We got some good content developers right now, and we've actually partnered with We Are VR as a content distribution partner. So they will actually be the store inside of our headset, and developers who are developing right now can upload their app to We Are VR and select Idealens as one of the platforms, and then that game will go onto the headset. And also, because this will actually be sold massively in China, that app gets to the Asian marketplace, which is a very difficult marketplace for a lot of developers to get into.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful stuff. And is there an indication of timing of excuse me, did you say the SDK is available right now?
The SDK is available right now, and we're starting to get developer kits out to select developers right now. Right now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your success with this. I actually tried the device out earlier today. Very comfortable to wear, 120-degree field of view. I thought the imagery was quite nice, and I think you're going to go far with this.
Well, thank you so much for having me again, Neil. It's good seeing you.
To my immediate right is Dr. Angel Patney, PhD, Senior Research Scientist at Nvidia, and to his immediate right is Tom Singolo. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. At SMI. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. So Tom, maybe you could quickly explain what SMI does. Nvidia, of course we know, but you'll get a chance as well. Tell us, what does SMI do?
So SMI has been building eye tracking solution for now more than 25 years. And we have recently, like in the last 4 years or so, we have started putting eye tracking into VR headsets, and we have partnered with our friends at Nvidia here to be providing them our eye tracking integration in the HTC Vive, and they have been making this great demo.
Okay, so for those unfamiliar, I know the title seems to say it all, but what is eye tracking? Why is it so important?
So essentially what we're doing is, we track the movement of the user's eye, and we determine where exactly you're looking at on the screen, or it's also on a HMD screen. And with knowing this information, you can do many things. One is gaze interaction, so you can use your eye and information on where you're looking at to interact with objects, or you can use it to do foveated rendering, which is exploiting the human visual system in a way that you can only render a high resolution area where the user is looking at, and then have a resolution drop in the periphery, which is actually matching the acuity of the human visual field.
Okay, wonderful. So Angel, I know Tom touched a little bit about foveated rendering. I know everybody knows what NVIDIA does for a living, but maybe you could elaborate just a little bit as to why this is so important. From a graphics processing point of view, why is foveated rendering so important?
Foveated rendering is a very old idea, and it has been around for many, many years. Research on it was being done in 15, 20 years ago. Recently it's become important because suddenly we have VR and AR workloads that are 2 to 4 to 7 times more demanding than existing video game workloads. So we're, as NVIDIA, we're really interested in making sure that this is a technology that's available to everybody, and for people who have the necessary resources to run it today, they can push richer and richer content onto their devices. So foveated rendering lets you improve performance by not reducing the visual quality by too much, and then making sure that the visual quality in your periphery is acceptable. We can actually reduce the workload that we're sending to the GPU, and consequently, we get a better performance out of existing as well as newer GPUs. So essentially, it improves the overall quality of VR. If you want to increase that. And on the flip side, it reduces the requirements of rendering the same quality of content.
So before we talk about your joint demo, maybe you could elaborate from a foveated rendering point of view, just how much of an improvement are we talking about? Like, is this like a radical improvement in performance?
Absolutely, it's a radical improvement. We're able to save somewhere between 50 to 70% of the pixel shading effort in any frame that we render. And pixel shading being one of the most dominant aspects of rendering, especially in modern computer games, that would translate to very realistic and non-trivial savings in the final performance of the.
So is foveated rendering, is it like the holy grail of VR, and that this could prevent us from needing to get like 2 or 3 generations of GPUs before we have practicality? Like what are the stakes here?
It's definitely a technology that enables more and more people to access virtual reality. I wouldn't say there's a lot of problems to be solved. I wouldn't say this is their holy grail. It's probably a holy grail that we have to go to. And then secondly, that you have to still wait for headsets that to actually support eye tracking. And I'm glad that SMI is actively working on that. So once those are available and that they are mainstream, I'm sure this will be the way to do VR until the hardware and platforms are so good that it doesn't matter to render really, really high resolutions at really, really high frame rates. And as we know, that chase always keeps happening. You'll have more content at that point to be able to render.
Wonderful. So this is a joint demonstration between you. It's like a proof of concept. So from SMI's point of view, can you tell us a little bit about the eye trackers? Like how does it work? How did you implement it into these head mounts?
So we integrate a single camera per eye in the headsets, and then we integrate also some infrared illumination, so it's an infrared-based tracking system. And then we run the cameras at 250 hertz in order to catch every fine movement of the eye, in order to enable foveated rendering, which you can't outrun. And so this is essentially all it takes. All the rest of magic happens in software.
And what amazes me is that I'm imagining myself just looking around a scene. That's effectively what's happening. I'm looking around the scene, and the computer has to either predict or know where I am and render the exact spot on the scene to make that happen. Is it easier than it sounds, or is it much harder than it sounds?
I think the first version of foveated rendering is basically exactly that. It's the first thing you would try. You would draw the scene in different resolution in the periphery and a higher resolution in the fovea, and you would just make sure, as you track your eye, you just make sure wherever you're looking, that is where the high resolution area lies. However, once we tried to implement that on a VR device and tried to push the limits of this technology, we found that it's not as easy as it sounds, because peripheral vision is not the same as foveal vision. It has very different behavior and very different sensitivities to artifacts in the image. So if you have the same level of detail reduction in the fovea that we would usually try in the fovea that you do in the periphery, would be much perceived in a much different fashion. And that's where the complexity arrives, is where I'm trying to understand what is it that peripheral vision is more sensitive to as opposed to foveal vision.
That's amazing, because I would have thought that the periphery, forget about it. You just have to worry about what's front and center. But it sounds like the periphery is actually a lot more sensitive than we give it credit. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And from what we have learned from talking to vision scientists and working directly with them, is that peripheral vision is, it's like 95% of what you see is peripheral. And what it's trying to do constantly is not telling you the details of the world, but telling you your place in the world. So it's where, for example, people who lose peripheral vision find it very hard to be balanced while they're walking and talking. So that's one of the examples of showing that it is important, and it's important to preserve what it's sensitive to.
Maybe it has to do with being hunted, because you got to see what's going on in your periphery.
And this is actually close to what it is. So also what Anjul said. So in your peripheral vision, you're much more sensitive to motion. Whereas like this has to do like in the fovea you have a lot of cones, whereas like in the peripheral vision you have more rods, and these are like the cells which are like more sensitive to motion than in the center of your vision. And this is why it's so important to like take care of like anti-aliasing, and this is like one of the most amazing parts of Nvidia's and Angel's demo here.
This is very exciting stuff. Can you talk about, now I think that I saw 4 different classifications of foveated rendering. Can you just quickly highlight each one, what makes each one unique?
Yeah, the 4 things that we showed today, the first one is just traditional foveated rendering with the multiple resolutions, and that's where you would see all of the temporal artifacts and the contrast loss. That it's a baseline.
It was an instant migraine. It was like, I don't mean it gave you a migraine, but it visually looked like a migraine. If anyone's ever had the flashy eyes and the whole thing, and but anyway. But don't mistake it for a stroke. But anyway,
that's okay. It's very distracting. I agree. The second mode is where we try to sort of try to study whether being temporally stable is beneficial, perceptually speaking. So we turn everything into a Gaussian blur, and that's completely stable. And even though it's reducing the detail, it's not flickering. It's not sort of jittery in the periphery, and that makes a huge difference in step 1. The third thing that we study is we improve the temporally smooth blur by making sure the contrast is matched between fovea and periphery. And that is important because the more you push a blur, the more you lose contrast, and it starts to appear like a tunnel vision or sort of like a dream sequence sort of effect. And you want to avoid that because at the end of the day, you're playing a video game and you want your enemies in your periphery to sort of trigger something so that you can turn and shoot them, or if you want to find some object and it's in your periphery, you want to be able to react to that. And if it's all like blurry and fuzzy, it's not a good experience. Finally, we show a real renderer that is based on the insights that we discovered by testing temporally stable and contrast-preserving versions. And that rendering system is a practical way of achieving these goals while saving performance. Of course, it's based on some proof of concept, simulated features that belong to maybe future platforms that we deliver. But it's not. It's demonstrated that it's practical to get those achievements today. So the 50 to 70% shading reduction that I mentioned is actually achieved in this version.
Okay, very good. Now, Tom, if I may ask, I know this demo is all about foveated rendering, but SMI has been in this eye tracking business for some time, and I'm being modest when I say some time. Can you talk about eye tracking as to what applications you've been focusing on over the years, so people appreciate just how important it is?
Yeah. So I mean, eye tracking is like a perfect way of getting the user's attention. And like besides foveated rendering, we use that also to do gaze interaction, where essentially you can use the user's point of gaze in order to like interact with virtual objects. Also, especially in VR, that is something which is really fun because everyone who's tried VR and tried with hand controllers, they still are a little bit clumsy. And like by having eye tracking in there and essentially the user's gaze, you can use that to absolutely select objects with very, very precisely. And then we use hand controllers to like manipulate them relatively. And actually this brings back hand-eye coordination in VR, which is broken so far, and it makes a really, really great experience. Another good application for that is to create social presence. So when we think a little bit about head, which is already starting, is that we have like avatars in VR, and just adding, like having an avatar with like real eye movements, and if you're talking to your friend and you can see where he's looking at, then this is something which like creates such an immersive experience.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
This is Neil Schneider from MTBS. Back with more right after this.
Well, thank you for joining me in my messy basement. You know the drill. If you want to be on the program, if there's some subject matter you'd like to see, by all means, email neilsmessybasement@mtbs3d.com. And don't forget, check out getimmersed.com. We do have an open call for speakers. We're, of course, looking for exhibitors, and we have all kinds of affordable methods for people to get involved. So this is going to be an ambitious effort, and we want to see you there. So on that note, I am looking forward to speaking with you again next week.